this time we're going to be doing a short anime girl. So she's going to be a little bit shorter than our other character. You just accomplish this by making sure that your head heights add up to the correct proportions. So anything like 5 head heights and below basically be considered a short anime girl. So we're just keeping that in mind as we go. For this, I'm still going to find ways to exaggerate certain parts and pieces of her so that she still looks mature. I'm not trying to draw a young child character or anything like that. Still trying to draw a lady, but she's just a lot shorter. So, again, I'm using Clip Studio Paint. You can use any program, or you can use pencil and paper. It's completely up to you. If you're doing it through pencil and paper, make sure that your construction lines are very, very faint, very, very light. That way any corrections and erasings you do, it's not going to show through on your actual finished piece. For me, my lowermost layer is going to be at 30% opacity with a red marker, so that way I can actually more clearly see my construction lines. And then that way they're also not just so bright that it's just brutal to look at. So, like always, we're just going to start with our head to circle. It doesn't have to be perfect in any way, shape, or form. You just want to sketch it in. I need to make it a little bit smaller though. From there, I am going to drop in a ruler for my center line. We will construct our character around this line. I am going to give her a very shallow jawline. That kind of helps with the overall cuteness of a character if they have a slighter jawline. So you want to keep her kind of short and cute. Just drop in some ears there. Very basic little face here. So, next, about this same distance here, this jawline, we're going to drop in our shoulder line. Then we want to drop in our rib cage. Now for this, you really want to make sure that basically, since she's a short character, you want this rib cage here to basically be the same height as her head. So it's basically just a second head shape, right? I'm going to shrink this down a little bit so it fits into it a little bit nicer. That will help keep the overall proportions proper. And we want small circles just inside of that, our shoulders. Just where the armpit connects, we're going to drop in our line to help mark out where the breasts will be. And following the top of that shoulder shape, you're then going to bring the top of it into a little dip with a small point at the end for our collarbone. I'm going to give her a thin neck with small traps, like so. I'm going to thicken this side of it though. There. From here, again, we're trying to keep her pretty short, so basically just within one head height below the bottom of the rib cage here, we're going to throw in our hips. Now, a great way to exaggerate the age of this character is we are actually going to give her wide hips. Any number of ways you can do it. It's up to you. If you still want to have kind of thin hips, it's up to you. For me, just to help indicate that this is an adult character, I'm going to make her hips the same width as her shoulders. I'm just trying to keep them even. Roughly a jaw length beneath that line. I'm going to connect them with a slightly concave line here, followed by sort of dome like this. And this outer line here is our hips. It is the unmovable portion here. So Here at the base, inside here, is an unmovable spot. And then basically up to here is an unmovable spot. So I'm going to mark that out since this is the hip bone area. Now what we'll do is just like before, we're going to follow that rib shape down a little bit. This is just sort of the outer meat of the torso here. I'm going to slightly bring this one in just a little bit more. That way, so it's a little more even. Actually, no. Let's see here. Okay, here we go. I gotta widen this slightly. They're just a little bit off, and I was just trying to figure out what to do to fix it. So this just needs to be widened a little bit more. Alright. Then, like before, I'm just gonna connect these. Again, I like using this shape, but you can do any shape you really want. It's up to you. Whatever looks nicest to you, just use that. Now I'm gonna put in my belly lines. So it's just basically this shape there in the middle. Inside, so right here, just barely inside from the outside edge here. Just going to follow down with my stomach muscles just to map that out. From there, just want to make sure my hips are even. I'm going to kind of give this character slightly more pointed hips than my previous tutorials. That way it's a little bit different and interesting. From there, add in our leg lines, and then we'll mark this off. So now I'm just trying to figure out if the height of my character is good. So I think that if she has, and this I'm just marking out with lines, so it's like here's my knee line, here's my ankle line, so this would be, you know, the feet area here. And I'm just using this to first kind of determine the overall height. So then I think my feet actually need to come down slightly. Like so. So I kind of like that. I'm going to drop in my ankles and knees, my basic foot shape, connect these like so. Then just like before, I'm just going to start with the inside of my thigh. This time it's a little bit more exaggerated with the overall shape, since everything's a little bit more compressed, right? So that meat has to go out rather than stretch down. So she's gonna be a little bit thicker looking, even though she's not insanely thick. And again, I'm gonna follow this inside line down for my knee. I'm going to give very, very slight concave line here to indicate my shin bone here. Slight curve. The outside area here, curve into my calf like this. This is just sort of a classic cutesy anime girl pose. So. And you can make the thighs as thick or as thin as you want. I'll kind of bring this one in and kind of get away from me here. So. And just mess with it till it's a shape that you like. Go. Then we just want to add in the bottoms of our glutes here, just because they'll be ever so slightly visible. Then just below the rib line, I'm going to put in my elbows, followed by my forearms. Curving down under the shoulder line, ever so slightly. So that way it gives the shoulders into the biceps a bit of a more pleasant shape. The tops of the hands here are going to be basically even with my shoulders. I give myself some basic hand shapes here. Like so. Next, what I'm going to do is going to make my character larger like this, just so she's a lot easier to sort of see and work with for everyone watching. And in this character, I'm going to give a very small chest. So, this time, inside of the ribs here, I'm just adding in basically the brief outlines of each breast. Since there's not so much mass there that it's just a obvious sort of, tear shape or whatever. This time it's just, you're putting in the basic outline of it. It's just, they're small. And then that's basically the overall shape we're going for here. I'm going to take away the sharpness of this one just slightly. Then you just make sure the balance is pretty decent. And we get into the line art here. I'm just using black since this is a figure study for me. At home you might consider using a dark red for warmer colored pictures, or a dark blue for cooler pictures. Completely up to you though. Trying to keep her jaw still a little bit smooth. I don't want it to really be sharp. Throw in our basic ear shapes. Nose, mouth. Alright, from here, I'm going to start with my hand into the forearm. I'm not fully going to follow that line all the way down and around, because next I will send, but basically that line, there's nothing really covering it this time around. So because of that, it's not actually going to make a full shape like this. We're going to kind of see where it connects. So this time I'm going to make my line following the rib cage. There we go, it's a little bit better. Oops. Outer lines for our chest. Then I will follow this line here for my shoulders. This one's a little too rounded. There we go. This hand. Putting in basic shapes here for the hand. I'm not doing a hand tutorial. And we'll connect the elbows like so. Drop in our tummy lines. Top of the ribs there. So these little lines for the collarbone, neck, traps, tendons in the neck. Then I'm going to draw my hip lines. Trying to keep them pretty even here. This one keeps getting a little too pointed for me. That's better. Then we want to swoop in and out for our love handle section here. I'm going to follow this line in slightly just to show that she's a little bit thicker than our last character, since everything's so compressed. Put this down like that. Starting from the bottom, put that line there since that's an unmovable spot. And we'll just follow our inner thighs here. There we go. Then we want to come to the outside. It's thickest near the top, then it really swoops in. Like that. Then we want to add a slightly concave line there for the shin. And this shape for our calves into our little feet placeholders. And we will put in the base of the glutes there. And there you go. That is basically how to draw a short anime girl. A little bit to kind of accentuate that this is not a little kid. This is a adult woman, but a shorter character. I still kept the hips very wide and used thicker thighs to establish that. So even with a small chest, because her hips and legs are wide, she's obviously an older character. But you can make your character however you want to fit your story or just the character design. This is how I drew her today. So, moving forward for part 2, we'll show the same character but from the back.